News. I got a news story to talk about. It's actually an important news story that I want to bring some attention to, because it's nearing its deadline. In about a month, it's not looking too hot, but I want to talk about the Stop Killing Games initiative, which I'm gonna read directly off of the official website. So, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. An increasing number of video games are sold effectively as goods, with no stated expiration date, but designed to be completely unplayable as soon as support from the publisher ends. This practice is a form of planned obsolescence and is not only detrimental to customers, but makes preservation effectively impossible. Furthermore, the legality of this practice is largely untested in many countries. So, great example. We've talked about it in the past. Ubisoft, not only shutting down the Crew, but effectively, like literally pulling it from people's game libraries. And you know, the Crew was a $60 game, and the Crew, at least to my knowledge, has a single player component. Another good example would be the Need for Speed game from, I think, 2015 or 2016. That also has a single player component, but the problem is these games require an internet connection, because they are primarily online games, because they're more focused on the multiplayer. Just again, despite the fact that you could absolutely play these games single player. And that's what this initiative is supposed to, you know, help prevent. And the entire point is that there are these two petitions. One of them is for the EU, and one of them is for the UK. So unfortunately, I can't sign it myself, because I'm not a citizen in either of those areas. And so why specifically EU and the UK? Well, because if you've kind of been paying attention to some of the gaming news recently in terms of like some of the larger changes that have happened in the industry, a lot of it has happened from court decisions that have been made in the EU. More specifically, European courts determined that game companies now have to specify on their products if there's going to be in-game purchases or if there are going to be loot boxes. That all came as a result of people challenging these horrible anti-consumer practices in courts in Europe and all that, and the European courts agreeing with them, because Europe is, a lot of places in Europe are very pro-consumer. And that's why these petitions are primarily for the EU and the UK, because it's a lot easier to get stuff pushed in those areas than it is here in the US, because obviously, without obviously, you know, getting too much into it, US is all about the capitalism and making nothing but fucking money. So in order for stuff to happen here, especially in like the gaming industry, in order for stuff to happen here, we kind of need stuff to happen across, like, over the seas. And unfortunately, this initiative has, which firstly I should add, this initiative was kickstarted by Accursed Farms, or Ross, I think his name is. And he started it about roughly half a year or so ago, I want to say. And it was gaining a lot of traction until a particular individual by the name of Pirate Software, you may have heard of him, made a couple of videos and even talked about it on his streams, completely misrepresenting what Stop Killing Games is about. And from what I understand, obviously there's tons of videos out there that are already like about this. I would highly recommend you go watch those videos yourselves. Accursed Farms, actually, he put out a video, it was either today or yesterday, called The End of Stop Killing Games, and he goes into what Pirate Software was talking about and, you know, combats him on a lot of it, because again, a lot of what Pirate Software says about Stop Killing Games just misrepresents the entire initiative altogether. Because from what I understand, he seems to think that it's about, you know, us not wanting single player games to have DRM, which, yes, single player games are a portion of that, of the whole thing, but it's not the whole package. It's talking like also primarily multiplayer centric games that have these single player components that you could theoretically like have it set to where when the game is sunsetted, you can have, but you can still like keep the game up for players to like host private servers and all this other stuff. And what I find hilarious is that he goes, Thor, Pirate Software, he goes into this whole thing about how like, oh, so like for MMOs, for example, like Final Fantasy 14, whenever that game gets shut down and sunsetted, they have to divert development resources to sort of make the game like accessible to be single player and have it be a completely solo experience, and they'd have to rebalance it. And it's like, firstly, it's hilarious that he brought up 14, because for anyone who has played 14 post Shadowbringers specifically, because I think this is when they started doing it, post Shadowbringers is when Square Enix started to sort of solo proof the game in a sense. Like if you play 14 now, if you play 14 now, also I'm not talking original 14, I'm talking strictly 14 as it is now. You can do a lot of those dungeons solo. Like half the reason why, because 14 has this thing called the duty support. And what that is that it allows players to go through dungeons with a party of NPCs, kind of like a classic Final Fantasy game. Because obviously, especially with like earlier dungeons that aren't really ran anymore by current players, unless they're doing a roulette, trying to get into some of those older dungeons is kind of a fucking nightmare. Hey, DK the Coffee Fox, thank you for the raid of the party too. Hello everyone, I'm Bale with the Bounty Hunter. Bale was my name, and my bounty hunting is my game. I hunt out the bads of the Badlands, then I head back to my bunker hideout. And tonight, we're gonna be playing some Baxter, but I'm talking about the Stop Killing Games initiative. That's been kind of making the rounds as of late. Thank you, Raiders. I'm gonna give you that shout out, DK. What are we doing? What are we playing? Most importantly, how's your day been? But yeah, as I was saying, Final Fantasy 14 is in a state right now where you can go through a lot of the dungeons just by yourself as a player, but with, again, with a party of NPCs, especially later on, you can actually do dungeons with some of the main story NPCs. And what's kind of cool about that is that you get flavor text. Like, there's actual dialogue in between some of the characters if you're going through, like, the more late game dungeons. And I think that's really cool. And like I said, that's kind of what they're kind of like future-proofing the game so that whenever 14 inevitably does get sunsetted, players can still either like do private servers or whatever and still go through the game and experience it. And so Thor trying to bring up this whole idea of that, like, oh, they're gonna have to rebalance all the raid bosses. Like, no, they don't. Not really. Like, because you could theoretically, like, at that point, just enable duty support for raids. And just go through a raid with a party of NPCs. Like, that's an entirely possible thing that they could theoretically do. Another good example of, like, this is actually my first experience with this years back. So I've talked about this before, but I used to play a game called SOCOM. I used to play a lot of SOCOM growing up, and one of the games I played when I got my PS3 was SOCOM Confrontation, which was a multiplayer only SOCOM game. And I'm not sure if you could, but I wouldn't be surprised if you could be able to like set up a local game and set up bots. And it's like like SOCOM Confrontation was another game where that you could theoretically have it be to where you could play it single player. And that's kind of what, that's like, again, part of the reason why this initiative was created was to kind of like, again, stop that shit. prevent incidences like The Crew and all this other stuff. And actually, Blizzard can literally take games off of your library for no reason. And they basically do state that. And it's wild. You're playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla as far as myself been on the heat too long next year. Alright. Yeah, no, it's really hot over here. PT is a separate solution. Not solution. PT is a separate situation where that wasn't, because firstly, you didn't have to pay for PT. That was entirely a free demo. And that was just a case of Konami being pieces of shit and pulling the demo off of stores because of their hindering relationship with Hideo Kojima. I don't necessarily think that this would... I say this was successful, right? Say Stop Killing Games is successful, and PT came out today. I don't think PT would have been... I don't think that would have been protected. No, not console libraries. There, if you already downloaded PT, you could still play it as long as you did uninstall it. Example, Accursed. Pretty popular UK YouTuber. He talked about a lot how his PS4 still has PT downloaded on it. Removing it from the console, you would have to literally remove it from like the console storage, basically. Then again, I think PlayStation might have other, they might have other things regarding that, but again, besides the point. Yeah. Hey there, Kawaru. How's it going? Man, I'm talking about this today because Stop Killing Games has about a month left before its petitions basically close down. I think they have until July 13th and July 14th for these petitions to get fully signed. And unfortunately, because of these videos that Thor put out on Stop Killing Games, it did kind of kill the momentum of the whole initiative, and it kind of fucked everything over. And yeah, that's kind of, it's very unfortunate. And obviously, there's a lot of big YouTubers talking about it now because of this more recent update. You had people like Mudahar chiming in. Moist Critical talked about it too. He put a video out earlier today talking about it, and I think there's got to be more like about it. And now I'm talking about it. Granted, obviously, I know my reach isn't as big as a lot of those other YouTubers. I still want to help. I still want to help share this initiative around and try and at least get as many signings as we can. Again, this is only for the EU and the UK. If I could do something, I would, but unfortunately, again, I'm not an EU or UK citizen, so I can't sign these petitions. I can merely tell you guys about it and share them around. Which, hold on, I'm gonna grab these links right quick, and I'm gonna I'll post them in the chat just in case if you guys want to share it around yourselves. So this first link is for they're all actually pretty neatly labeled. So like this one is very obviously for Europe, and this one is for the UK petition. So if you're not a citizen of either area, please share them around. Let's see if we can try and push, and a Hail Mary basically within this last month of this movement to try and make gaming just a little bit better for the consumer. Like, abandonware shouldn't have to be abandonware just because that's just how the way the world works. No. That should not at all be the case. I've always been, especially within these past couple years, because I hadn't really crossed my mind. But yeah, no, I've been more adamant on game preservation and making sure games can still be played after years to come, which is why I love services like GOG, and how GOG always makes a push to try and like add new games to their preservation catalog and all that stuff. So yeah, even in you know, because this is obviously going on for news for the bunker, I'll be putting the links to both those petitions in the description also. So anyone who's watching this on YouTube, please, if you're, again, EU or UK, sign them if you can. If you're not a part of EU or UK, share it. That is as much as us outside of those areas can do. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna end it here.